these truths to be self-evident that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by the Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, that to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from consent of the governed, that whenever any form of government becomes destructive of these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or to abolish it, and to institute new government, laying its foundation on such principles and organizing its powers in such form as to them shall seem most likely to affect their safety and happiness. Prudence indeed will dictate that governments long established should not be changed for light and transient causes, and accordingly, all experience has shown that mankind are more disposed to suffer while evils are sufferable than to right themselves by abolishing the forms to which they are accustomed. But when a long train of abuses and usurpations, pursuing invariably the same object, evinces a design to reduce them under absolute despotism, it is their right, it is their duty to throw off such government and to provide new guards for their future security. The world is waking up, and this is the tipping point. Ladies and gentlemen, Scott McKay coming to you live from Dallas, Texas. We are back home. We brought Cinderella back. I guess it's probably been about 6 days ago. I think 6 days ago. It's taken literally almost 5 days to offload everything, clean all the equipment, put everything back. And we're still not done. Cinderella had to take her in for a whoopee whack. She wanted one more thing done before we parked her for a little bit. So that's underway right now. Put a new panel on, changing oil, all those kind of things. But it's good to be home. Great to be back in Dallas. Why is it when I take off, the weather gets nice. It's drops down into the 80s, maybe in the 70s. As soon as I roll back in town, here it comes up in the 90s again. But I'm sure that's going to pass. As many of you know, we had a great run this summer. A lot of tactical civics movement. In fact, I just heard today that the tactical civics chapters are rocking and rolling now, especially since the assassination of Charlie Kirk, which we're going to talk about tonight. This is the tipping point. High octane, full throttle truth hammer here to rain a shitstorm down on the scumbags that have destroyed humanity, i.e. politicians, central bankers, Vatican royal families, Hollywood, big tech CEOs, and the like. Anyways, so I got some information that came at me. Well, I should say requests that came at me. Where's Scott? How come Scott's not talking about, how come Scott hasn't, commented on Charlie Kirk? And if you haven't figured this out about me by now, I let 4 or 5 days, week go by when major events happen, and I don't say anything. Why? I want to see what all the smart people are digging up. And as they bring out all the information, then I kind of look at all of it, look at their evidences, try to analyze it, and then come to a conclusion that I feel is accurate. Fortunately for me, I have been blessed with the attendance here into my in-house studio. You have Mike Jaco right there. Yes, you're going to learn that we've moved up in the world in this operation. I have 2 Fisher-Price studios set up here in my home. Mike Jaco is actually in the king seat. He's got the really nice desk and the nice environment. I'm up here, with tomahawk slobbering all over my carpet, chewing on his ball, doing all the things that he does. But again, I operate very well in mud and the darkness like Mike used to in his former career as a Navy SEAL for decades. But Mike and Tracy Joe were in town, came by, hung out here for a bit. We're going to talk about the Charlie Kirk assassination. And I did get, I would call this an intel update. I always say, a few people say I got intel in our world, the podcast world. They don't have intel. They just have information somebody's given them. They're seeing somewhere else, including me. However, I do have 2 sources where occasionally I get what we call intel. And I certainly did on the Charlie Kirk assassination. It's coming from high level military operation intelligence side as well. And I got that briefing last night, and I'll tell you what I was told. And it's going to line up with some, or with a lot of people. I know there's 2 different commentaries here. The assassination, was a setup. It's real. Charlie's gone. All those kind of things. We'll talk about all of that. Off the top of my head, I can't think of any announcements that I have. Once again, I had plenty of time. I'm here an hour beforehand, and I'm going to get here to my seat early tonight, and I had to run up the steps again because I'm hanging out with Mike Jaco. You know, you just lose track of time. And TJ, what's that? Oh, hey, about that. Yeah, we got some mods. I want to we you forking scumbags and dime store douchebags that are here tonight to raise some hell. Guess what? The bitch slapping's about to begin because we got some our mods, Janet DeMello, Gigi Georgie, and Robin too. BF. We just hired 3 assassins, so you guys might want to start looking for another place to go raise hell and troll because tonight it is going to be somewhat brutal. I gave them all the weaponry to do what needs to be done, and this is again metaphorical and verbal. So don't anybody flip out. So thanks for watching these dime store douchebags and taking them out as quickly as you can. We'll send them back to where they belong, their basement, diaper pail, wherever they usually come from. And we'll continue on with doing God's good work here on exposing what's happening in the world. So we're going to dive head first right into Charlie's situation. I first want to say that I never really paid much attention to Charlie. Once I disconnected from elected politics, specifically when they stole the 2020 election, from that point forward, my day to day changed into a different narrative because I don't want to watch anything from their side, the fabricated machine, to see what's going on. And there's too many good people out there doing a great job, and I felt no longer necessary. I look at other aspects of this ascension process. So. In this case, a little different. I dug into it and I started to look and see what was going on out there. And I got to say, it takes balls to go against the general narrative. It takes balls to make comments before the let's say the pain or the passion has died down from such a tragic incident. But I did hear from other people, Mike Jaco coming out right away, and based on his information, his background, ballistics, all kinds of things that have to do with ammo, weapons, staging, setups, protection, all these things he did either for the SEAL community for 24 years or 10 years CIA contracting. Most people would go right to Mike and say, "What do you think?" While all of us are in this state of shock and horror and anger and whatever's going on, it takes a different kind of mind to sit back calmly and not get emotional and start looking at the facts as they are. So I'll tell you what my conclusions are, but I want to ask Mike, talk to Mike about what it was right out of the gate. Now, Mike's narrative has been his belief, and the information he's looked at painfully for days shows that this was another false flag, a white hat, a good one. And you could ask why or what. Again, there's a lot of unanswered questions that'll be unanswered for a while, given motivations. If this is true, that this was a white hat false flag operation, some will dig their heels in and say, "No, this is real. He's dead." Again, I have different information, and the reason that I say nothing for a week or so, I want to see how the whole thing rolls. Look at all the evidences people draw up or create, present, and I look at all of it, and then I give my best analysis on what I think actually really happened here. But Mike, so we saw this horrible thing unfold. I want to send out my best to Charlie Kirk and his family. I want to say one thing about before that, Charlie Kirk. I didn't pay attention to I didn't pay attention to the normal track of elective politics or anything, virtually the world that Charlie lived in. Now, I was supposed to meet Charlie on the 29th of October because we're going to be sharing the same stage in Santa Barbara. We were going to RFK and Judy Mikovits and a few other people, but I didn't get that chance to meet him. But I'm glad that I got a chance to look into Charlie. I know I've seen him speak moments. I never paid much attention, but I will say when I started to see all the videos pop up of Charlie speaking to different audiences, what an intellectual powerhouse! What an incredible guy! A talented man beyond what I even imagined. And just the little bits that I've gotten of Charlie's life, his career, the balls that he had to walk away from college and start a revolution against this insanity. I don't know what else to say except he's become one of my heroes for sure. And God love his kids and his family. I do have good graces for them that are certainly don't leave me feeling like there's a gap or a void in my soul because of the graces that are bestowed upon them right now. We'll talk about that in a minute. But Mike, here we are. This horrible thing unfolds and you go look like everybody else. And what was a process psychologically you're going through? Because I'm sure you were like all of us. Oh my God, this is horrific. And then you start looking at these things. What emerges that makes you draw a conclusion after days of looking at everything that this was a setup? Obviously, the setup would be for the good guys, because the other guys are going to kill them. Period, no matter what. What got your attention? Made you say, "Stop the press"?
Yeah. So initially, when I saw it, I was just before I went live on another show. So I saw him reeling back from what you could tell was a rifle shot. So you have the trained ear. We've been around weapons, and so I was like, it's a rifle, and looks like he got shot in the side of the neck, and he went back away from that round that hit him. So went on the show, and people were commenting. Said Charlie Kirk had passed, and I was surprised by that because I was like, wow, that was pretty quick. They were already calling it. Uh, some people were saying that he was recovering. Glenn Beck came on and said they're looking for transfusions. Looks like he's recovering. I was like, okay. And then we had people saying he had died. So there's like this conflict going on. I'm hearing that. I'm like, okay, I'm going to definitely look at this real hard. So I get off the show. I go right in instantly. I would say just like when I saw the planes crashing into the Twin Towers. I was like, that's bullshit. And then when I saw him, collapse, I was like, that's really bullshit. And I said the same thing when I saw Charlie Kirk, where the shot went in. I was like, that's fake blood. Uh, Real blood is very bright red. It spews. It
Spurts.
blasts everywhere. Uh, there's nothing behind, Charlie Kirk. So if a bullet from a rifle came in and hit him in the neck, it would probably blow his neck out, all of it, and it would splatter everybody behind him with massive amounts of blood, and there would be blood just like a fire hose, everywhere. So that didn't happen. So I'm like, okay, it's bullshit. I've done live tissue. I've worked on pigs that were shot and stabbed and all kinds of stuff, kept them alive. My pig out of 20 pigs and five to six guys working on pigs, my pig survived. So I know how to like look at trauma, live tissue, keep it alive, keep it alive, right? And when I saw that little hole, I was like, well, somebody's going to patch that, and it it didn't happen. And I saw the wrong fluid coming out, the way it was coming out. So many different things happened. So I started looking at videos. There was a video where right above his the freedom, the F, there was like a little circle. That circle traveled across his throat and stopped at his throat and
Yep.
then exploded in fake blood. So I know there's a lot of people that were there that really believe in that. How many people looked at 9/11 and believed that those aircraft were actually aircraft going into that? Now you look at 9/11 and you're like, oh, that's bullshit. I can't believe I was fooled. So that's the stuff that we have, really, really uh, to look at. And I know there's people out there that had, cousins or uncles or whatever that are right there, second row. You can be fooled. Very smart, very intelligent people can be fooled. We saw that with, like I said, 9/11. We saw that with the vaccination program. So people get fooled by this stuff. So at this point, you should question everything. I'm very surprised that there's people that haven't questioned this. If you question this and do a little research, do a little um, looking at all the different things, the shooter, how the shooter's like running across the back of the building after supposedly the shot had happened. Supposedly he has the weapon with him. He didn't have the weapon with him. He jumps off the building and then runs into the woods and leaves the weapon there. It's all fake. And this kid, I guess the patsy, whoever is being brought out to be. Is he ever going to stand trial? Probably. They'll make a big show of it, but it is a narrative, and so everybody's questioning. And I question, why would they have this crazy event? I think it was captured operation. They knew it was coming. They basically stopped it out, and they were like, "Okay, we're gonna make this production, not the deep state production, and we're gonna make it play out the way we want it to play out." Within days, we have the whole world is demonstrating for Charlie Kirk all around the world, pushing back against the deep state all around the world. So it is an operation, I believe, that is a positive. So a lot of people are like, I don't like it at any time they lie to us or anyone that's doing this stuff. So look at President Trump. Would you rather have seen President Trump assassinated, his head blown off, or would you rather them capture that operation, which I believe they also did? I said the same thing about that, and play it out. I think it's played out quite well. I think you and I, Scott, would probably be in concentration camps or dead by now, right? If President Trump had his head blown off, unfortunately. So, and with Charlie Kirk, if you ask me, we're going to do this worldwide, event against the deep state, and we need to use you as the sacrificial lamb, but you won't be killed. I was like, okay, you're sure about that? So I would be like Charlie Kirk, and I'd be like, absolutely, let's get it on. And at some point, maybe you come back in, we'll see how it works out. But at this point, you're gonna have a major impact on the world, and I think that's what's happening right now.
Historical impact. I've watched people actually get upset with each other because of the people who think the narrative is this is real. It happened. Charlie's gone. And then there are those who, like you see what you see, and you're like, this is another false flag. I mean, Sandy Hook is a big one. I mean, it was Alex Jones that went after the Sandy Hook thing, and people get so irate and pissed off. And Alex Jones eventually gets sued and gets wiped out because he loses that judgment because he's exposing the Sandy Hook thing. But yet you see Sandy Hook, this terrible tragedy, but you see the father of one of the girls who were shot. I think she may have been the one that said, "Yeah, I'll stand up for Jesus Christ right now." He shoots her in the head. You can't miss this footage. They show the guy. He's off the side of the stage, and he's over there laughing. He's talking to somebody, they're laughing. And then he realizes, oh, the camera's on. And then he does this whole thing, gets into teary mode. I'm like, that is total bullshit, complete bullshit. So, but people will battle each other back and forth, us out here in the world, on what really happened with the whole Sandy Hook thing. And that guy needs to go to jail, Alex Jones, for saying this horrible stuff. And he does get prosecuted and all these things happen. It's a world that has a heartbeat that we can't quite measure in so many ways. This, whatever you want to call it, we live in this non-reality that has been engineered to keep us buried in this satanic low frequency vibration to where we can't break out of it and get into that full Christ consciousness as a species on the planet and obliterate this force. But we're going to. But here's the thing, why people get so emotional about it. I think we had the advantage because we studied the intelligence for 3.5 years, and we saw things we would have never, ever seen in our lives, or even come to these conclusions without military intelligence laying out the entire roadmap of what to look for, how to look for, get a different picture of it, learn to think for ourselves, trust ourselves, think for yourself. That's what we were taught to do. Now, so I think most importantly than anything, is the effect is what is critically important for humanity. I'll share with you, folks, as I shared with Mike earlier, I had my update, and this was from an intel source. By the way, as you heard me say here, one of my close friends here in Dallas at the time had dinner with one of Trump's top advisors. Won't mention her name, but she admitted at that dinner table, among a bunch of other things, that the Butler assassination was a setup. It was a white hat op. Now you say, why would they do that? Because the many attempts that they already had on Trump that they thwarted, And whether that was going to be a planned one or not, and they got in front of it, they decided, okay, this is what, if we let it happen, it's really going to look like this. And so let's get in front of it. Let's stage it for our purposes. And of course, Trump lives through it. It has a global impact, truly. So, good or bad, right or wrong, I don't think that's for us to be able to, make that decision now. But with this situation, with the contact that I have that gets information from an extremely high level military intelligence, and he comes from Mike's background, a long-term SEAL, brought back as somewhat of a contractor on off the books work when Trump first came to power. Asked him to come back and do different things, lead certain, off the books ops, things like that. And of course, for whatever reason, I'm one of the two people that gets information through one person from this man. Now I think I'm just one, but when we talked the other night, he sent me a number of things, and I'm reading these. I'm like, I got to get on the phone with my guy, and he told me that the information he got from this source, this contact, this intelligence, is that this was a white hat operation. They knew it was coming. We all learned about Project Looking Glass through the Q drops, and Project Looking Glass is a very sophisticated quantum technology where whether you can see into the future something's coming, or you have a system of AI with so much power, it can play out every imaginable scenario given current dynamics in the world, of all things that are going on, and accurately predict. I don't know which it is, looking glass, looking through and seeing forward into that future. Do you think that's not possible? You were created by a magnificent power you call God, and anybody that says shit's impossible always makes me think you're not much of a believer. You talk about God all the time, but that could never happen. Well, your creator's far more powerful and amazing than you or I could possibly imagine. So I don't discount anything ever. But through Project Looking Glass, they knew this was coming. They decided to get in front of it, and they're going to stage their own, because inevitably, what was the effect that we got from it? Number one, in the Q drop, I think maybe once or maybe twice, the world will be united. The world will be united. And I always thought that might be the return of JFK Jr. That's one thing. The second thing is that you need the world to see the left truly for what they are, the Democrat Party truly for what it's become. And I have not yet in this entire movement, Mike, seen this unifying field of energy, a quantum tethering worldwide, the absolute blowback on the left, on the ideology of left, of their tactics, which is outright, the cabal will just have you killed if you're too much of a force against them. There's a revolt going on. There's a revolt. I mean, a revolt going on, so much so that any of these idiots that came out on social media that are celebrating or laughing about Charlie Kirk's death are being fired by companies all across the nation. People who are in the media, who also came out, are taking serious blows, either being shit canned or they're in deep shit. So, but when you look and see millions of people in foreign countries coming out, I mean, imagine if you or Charlie, part of a white hat op, and you're off to the side seeing the results of this. I'm telling you, to watch this thing unfold, you have to ask the question, what is most important here? What is most important here is the Great Awakening. Waken these people up to see the gravity of the evil on the left, and the cabal, which operates on both sides, but this neoliberal fascism that's creating purple and pink-haired lunatics on campuses that are completely dead from the eyes back. And now they are front and center in front of the world. This is how they are. BLM, Antifa, these kind of people. It's creating, in my opinion, this unifying moment where we are getting, as a human species, we have had enough. And I think what's more important here is, would you rather have Charlie Kirk be alive and get the results the world needs to wake everybody up to bring this thing down? Or would you prefer that it was actually true and he's dead and it was horrific? Which would you prefer? It's pretty simple. How about if we run a game on them where Charlie lives and they are destroyed because we play acted out what was truly going to happen, but we kept Charlie, but we showed the world what was going to happen and let it go from there. Right, Mike? That's kind of how I see it.
Yeah, that's. I remember we had a discussion and I thought that was brilliant. I'm glad to share that. That we've seen other influencers that are out there. Seen now, I reveal to you that there are groups, military groups, that are involved in negative operations, and that's the black hat, very dark. Uh, some of them think that they're part of the good guy. They're lured in, and then they do bad stuff, and then they either try and get out, or they have to stay in and continue their operations. James Files, the guy that I've had on my show, is a great example. The guy that pulled the trigger behind a picket fence. So I remember that's where we first met. When I was checking out the picket fence, I was like, somebody was here. And then I
Would
was
you
like,
please tell the world that I used my Native American skills to sneak up on a Navy SEAL?
yeah, you did, and it was amazing. But it's right at the last second, so we're both really skilled. So that was a lot of fun. So we talked to each other, had shows and stuff, and we had great respect for each other. But it was kind of cool that that's how we met.
Mm-hmm.
So
Right where they killed Kennedy.
right where they killed Kennedy.
Yep.
So that was a black hat operation.
Mm-hmm.
This is a white hat operation. So they're both filled with deception. Now, again, like you were describing, which would you rather have? You like to have the real death, or would you like to have the white hats come in and play this out and play this? I know, obviously, everyone would be like, well, not everyone, but most of us would be like, well, we don't even want this at all. We're not there yet. All right.
Mm-hmm.
We've had like I said, 9/11. We have JFK. We had JFK further back. We've had, Fukushima. That was, they tried to hide that. I was like, that thing blew up, and everybody's like, you're
Mm-hmm.
stupid. I'm like, and then everybody found out it blew up.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, COVID, you can't do the shot. Otherwise it's gonna poison you. And people, 80% of Americans got, and Europeans got the shot. So we know that we can be fooled. And if the deep state, the black hats, get the option, they're gonna fool us in a direction that's not good. Now the white hats have to play the game, unfortunately. And I've seen like other influencers and high level people, because you're gonna be like, I know a lot of people are gonna be like, well, so and so said this and this. It's okay. We still love all those guys
We
that,
need it. We need
yeah,
it. Right, Mike? We
yeah,
need that narrative.
yeah. Most people aren't ready for this.
Yeah, we need it. I'm glad you brought that up
Yeah.
because regardless of what my beliefs are, what's most important is the effect, the end result of the gravity of what these killers are willing to do. And that's look, you can't deny it. Look at BLM Antifa, how many people died, killed, cops. The one that shot, somebody walked right up to him in Las Vegas, a young cop, 31 years old, boom, right in the head, killed him. This is who they are. This is a way for them, again, to show what was planned, what was going to come. They got in front of it
Mm-hmm.
because the effect is the only thing that matters. So, like, for example, I'm not going back and forth. Anybody says he's dead, and I don't even care. I want them to continue. We're both, as I said to you today, both sides here are necessary. Those people who have this true belief that he is actually, and you and I know somebody who's pretty big and credible in our movement that says, no, he's gone.
Yeah.
Well, we would generally absolutely believe that, well, if he says that he is, we don't, because some things have to be said. Once again, misinformation is real. Misinformation is necessary. It's in the intelligence they showed us. And you got to tie those things together to understand how this chess game is working. So I want those people who believe that it was true and happened, I want them keeping their belief and pushing it out there everywhere, because we need the desired effect for people to wake up to who these killers really are. So I'm not going back and forth with anybody, but I'm not going to retract from what I see and what I believe. I took no position. I didn't even comment on it. I usually now wait. I've done it for years now. I sit back, watch what everybody's digging up. I analyze what they're thinking, saying, and then I'm like, this is what makes sense. And you know what picked it out for me? I was rolling a video very slowly, pulling my finger across the screen, trying to look at frame by frame. And I happened to notice this dark circle right here about Charlie's collarbone left on his his left side. It'd been his left side. No, he was hitting. It was on his right side. Yeah, it was right. Because this thing, as I'm going frame by frame by frame, it starts moving. I'm like, how's this circle? It looks like it's on top of his shirt. It's moving across and it goes across and then it lands right here. And moments after it lands right here comes what you would believe was blood. I'm like, Robin was sitting here and I said, look at this, watch this. I showed her and we're like, holy shit, this was staged brilliantly so, because if people are buying it, that's exactly what we need, because they were going to do it anyways. The black hats, the killers already had him teed up. They were taking him out.
Yep. Now, Tracy was sharing with us when she was in high school. Her sister went to school and they had like a class of movie type, makeup and so forth. And they wanted her sister to do like she was cut. Her wrist was cut, and so she had all the makeup on there and the fake skin or whatever. And so she goes home, and her brother's coming in, and so they had broken a glass, and so she screams, and she's like, "I cut my wrist," and her brother comes in, and he's like, and then she starts laughing. So he was fooled, and
Traumatized.
traumatized a little bit, probably, unfortunately, probably not too happy about it still, but. And a lot of people that got traumatized by Charlie Kirk are probably not too happy about that too, and they don't want to admit that at any point, probably for a while at least, that they were fooled. And that's the way we see with a lot of these events. People are traumatized, MK Ultra type, and they stick to the narrative. They heard the shot, they saw the blood spurt, they saw the acting, and it's like it's real. I saw it. I was there, and so that's what we saw with a lot of these. That's what we're seeing with a lot of these events, unfortunately. And so it kind of sticks for a lot of people. It's like, well, they were there. They know. No, they were fooled. All right. So it's tough because you and I are going to get a lot of heat for this, but it's tough to be someone that shares the truth and destroys false narratives. It's frustrating, but eventually, people start to wake up, and we don't get accolades. I never get accolades for like being
And
the
you're
first
right.
to talk about it. It's like Mike was right. Mike was right. Yay, Mike! Yeah, I never get that. Never. And I don't want that. I really don't. Uh, so I just want people to be, see the truth and to awaken to it. The faster that we get more people awakening to this, I think the better it's going to be going forward. It doesn't have to have everybody. No, we didn't have to have everybody join us in the Revolutionary War. We had like half the country that was still for the Brits, and actually some of them fought for the Brits. A lot of people don't know that. There was just a small percentage of uh, terrorists. The British called the Patriots terrorists. So now the terrorists are basically deep state. And the deep state is very well ingrained. We're probably going to see massive numbers of these people go crazy. You and I have been talking about this for years. No civil war, but it will seem like it probably at some point. So again, the more people that we can wake up. Now, I've heard from a lot of people that a lot of people have gone to God and Jesus and so forth. I'm like, that's good, right? So there's going to
Right.
be good that comes out of this, and there will be a lot of people that awaken from this, and we'll see demonstrations in the right direction on this, and we've already started to see them across the world. But eventually, the deep state and their minions will It's total evil. And what do we want in our country? We want to allow these evil minions to run our country, or do we want to, like, clean our country up? Now, we've talked about this. This is going to be a difficult cleanup job, right? Because a lot of these people can never, ever see the light of day again, right? They're the ones that try to throw us in prison. Now we got to like turn the tide on them. So a lot of these people are going to have to go to prison or something else.
Yeah, and you're right. What you said earlier, the only reason we're alive is because progress is being made. We would have been, we'd have been taken down a long time ago, not just off of channels, but literally, they didn't build FEMA camps for 3 million people for nothing. And it sure as hell wasn't for them, right? It may very well turn out to be for them, but most important is the effect, that being what leads somebody to, Christ, to discover God, to whatever. That's the only thing that matters here. And for me, I think it's fascinating that this, we talk about 5D chess. People throw those things out. They don't always believe it because they respond in ways that doesn't show belief in 5D chess. But to me, I think the intricacies and even the extravagance of this battle, this battle in the spiritual realm, is pretty much so unbelievable. I said this to you earlier. Even if you and I got to know the full scope of all of it, we'd be like, "Holy Mary, Mother of God!" Like we'd have a hard time getting our heads around it. But I think what people need to focus on is not what they believe or think what happened or what they saw happen, whatever. You mentioned it, like 911 was a unifier. It wasn't, it was a unifier for the people in the nation. And it had great power to it. Unfortunately, the motivation was to get us to agree and cheer and chant for the death of people in Afghanistan, or then Iraq, and then becomes Syria, then Yemen, and it just spreads, and Libya, and all the horrors of what the Bush cabal and their clown minions and what they all did, at the behest of the bankers, was literally millions of people being killed, innocents around the world, because of the worst crime family the United States has ever seen, and that's the Bush family, for what they perpetuated on the world. And I say that having worked 2 Bush campaigns. The only thing that matters is, what does this do for humanity? I think it shows Charlie's heroism just to do what he did in leading a revolution and the courage of a movement to stare down this hostile, satanic realm that's been injected into the universities and comes through the kids, and take them on and let them, enough of them, see his logic, common sense, and how he backs everybody into a corner with their own bullshit. And then they become defenseless. And then they do what? Call names or act out like children. I think nothing minimizes what he did, regardless of the truth of how this actually rolled out, and what it reveals. I know I can, in my own way, have somebody on here in days that truly believe that Charlie is this was real and he's gone.
Yeah.
I can take those emotions on with this person, because I can think of the reality of this really did happen. It was going to, and what that would feel like if it really was that Charlie truly was gone. I mean, it's a heartbreaker. When I saw the wife and the kids, I mean, I'm literally fighting back tears. So that's not hard for me. I just think about the price that he paid. Now, here's one thing that I will throw in there. I forgot, and I'm going to turn it back over to you. My source told me, I asked about Valhalla, and he said, from this guy, where the intel comes from, Valhalla is obviously a warrior, mythical, I don't know otherwise, but also is a certain place where they send people in witness protection who want to keep a normal life, keep everything about them. They're not cover names, they're not whatever. And I don't know where it is. Somebody said it was like in Germany somewhere. But all these people who do not want new identities and protective covers, they're protected. But it's kind of like Atlas Shrugged, where
Yeah.
John Galt is pulling the most powerful producers in the world out of the realm of socialism, and they have their own haven that they live in where they're honorably living and bartering and all those things. And I see that Valhalla would be the same thing, where they're simply removed and put into a place where everybody who wants to be in that realm, that's where they are, with their same faces and same everything. They just have a different life. Obviously, they're not out there in the world doing what they're doing. You talk about a sacrifice, like your identity, all of, you're just like the world no longer, the world thinks you're gone. All the relationships, everything all is gone. But you talk about heroic, in my opinion, that is. And I just wonder if Charlie was an operation from the beginning when he dropped out of college.
Mhm.
And this is just speculation. No, I'm not saying I know anything at all. I just thought, wonder when this really started. Did they come to him and say, hey, they're going to take you out? Did they say they know a certain year? Did they see Looking Glass in the last couple months? Or in Looking Glass, did they see, when did he drop out of school? Like 2019 or something like that, out of college, or I forget when, but did it happen then because of that and become this big force? Who knows?
Yeah.
Uh, I don't know. I look at all possibilities. I think it's more surreal than we can imagine.
Yeah, it's interesting because the Trump family basically used Charlie Kirk's father. Uh, he's an architect, I guess, and he did some building for them, and so it's not anything new. So Charlie Kirk has been part of the family for a long time,
Mhm.
so it wouldn't be out of the ordinary for them to start to groom him for these positions. It wouldn't be out of the ordinary for President Trump, to have been groomed for his position. And especially if you have, like you're talking about, the looking glass technology,
Mhm.
to look into those times forward looking and so forth. So yeah, I think he was groomed for this position. Is he in the background with the cues and the white hats and so forth? I think so. So he's back there. You look at the funeral or the coffin recently. Now I can tell you from my son passed away at 31 not too long ago, and it tore me apart. Uh, I It was tough for me to I did shows after a few days, but I was like teary eyed in my shows. His wife just came on recently, and so I can't imagine anyone coming in and saying doing a speech like she did. She had a little bit of in her voice, but I couldn't have done it. All right, if my wife or someone very very close to me, like my son, passed, I can tell you you're torn apart.
Mhm.
So she's in a coffin, and she has like these crazy looking rings on.
You see that? I got
And on those rings is go. One says G
go.
and the other one is zero or O. And so she's got her hands on what look like mannequin hands. They don't look normal. They don't act
No.
natural. And I think that's part of the reveal for everybody. I think that his blood spurting was part of the reveal for everybody. I think the coffin scene was a reveal for everybody. Uh, there's even some people that are like, doing facial matches for Charlie and for her, and you know, doubles. Now, we also talked about, I talked, I said that there is a white hat group, and this group is substantial. I've heard as many as 60,000, and they use a lot of masks. All right, so uh, if that is really the case, you have that many people that are involved in the Q movement and taking down stuff. That's pretty substantial. Now, it's not substantial when you look at the millions of people in each one of these cities that's going to revolt, right? So there's probably been some, like with ICE and probably some of these undercover types that have been going in these cities and taking out a lot of the deep state actors, right? The really bad people. They know who they are, and they've been taking some of these people out. But it won't be. It's not going to be enough. There will be trauma that's going to come, moving forward. So the sooner we get to that point, we understand that the more people can prepare for these events. And I know there's a lot of people still out there are working this little magical moment that we just had with Charlie Kirk. They're going to continue to push that, probably push back on us that are trying to wake people up. That's part of the messaging that needs to go on. They need to keep some people, I guess, in out of the loop. Uh, you and I talk about, we're all about truth. We're done. We're not. We don't want to play the game where we have to keep people dumbed down. I want everybody to know the truth, and we are trying to share that truth right now with everybody. So you can do your own research, you can do your own critical thinking, and you're probably going to come up with the same conclusion that we have. Of course, we have a little bit of background, and I know people trust us, but there's going to be a lot of people that are going to push back on this. You're going to have a lot of your friends. You're going to share this with them, and they're going to push back on it. I've heard from a lot of people already that they're sharing this, and they're getting a lot of pushback from people. Look at COVID. 80% of the people got vaccinated. Look at 9/11. I can tell you because from the day 9/11 happened, I was talking to people and they're like, what are you talking about? And I would do shows when Facebook came out. I was doing shows when every 9/11 I would do a show and I would get so much pushback. It was insane. But I just kept revealing the truth. And that's what I'm about. I'm going to reveal the truth. I'm going to get a lot of pushback. I'm not going to get credit. It's okay. I don't mind. I don't care. But this is what we do. We're the real truthers. And, if you see someone out there still pushing what I call a false narrative, it's okay. Some of them don't know. Some of them have to play the game. So don't beat people up because they don't think like you do. At this point, you should be at the point where you're like completely open-minded about anything.
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah. Again, if the believers in the podcast world are 100% believe that this actually did happen, again, they're necessary. The emotion, the authentic emotion that comes from them is adding to this major temporal field that continues to build since this happened with Charlie.
Yeah.
And to watch this, I mean, this is a moment we've been waiting for. Again, one of the cue drops, the shot heard round the world, a week to remember. Who on earth that has a TV is not spiritually or energetically engaged with this assassination? It's all over the world. I mean, I'm stunned by it. I mean, honestly, I could see it with Trump if if Trump was killed or whatever, I could obviously would see that. But Charlie's a powerful force, but I had no idea how powerful, number one. Brilliant, intellectually powerful, a voice taken on to save the youth of America in the indoctrination camps of colleges, which I wouldn't even send my kid to a college today. But the fact that I've watched this energy field explode is so, I don't want to say gratifying. It's so exciting to me because I see something happening in this spiritual realm. I see this rise of this consciousness where people that may even disagree are kind of doing this. One of the first ones I saw, this guy said, I voted Democrat all my life. He goes through a number of things. I didn't vote for Trump, blah, blah, blah. But today, I just changed to the Republican Party. Yeah. That is a Grand Canyon leap for somebody that saw this. And even though what you and I believe doesn't matter, they were going to do it for real, the bad guys. We got the effect and didn't lose Charlie from our point of view. And it's a beautiful thing. It is a beautiful thing to watch. I mean, I'm in tears watching millions of people, all the videos popping up, TikTok, Instagram. I'm like, oh my God, this is what we've been waiting for. So folks, it's important to focus on that, not who believes what here. You're missing the most important moment, in my opinion, of the Great Awakening right now if you're getting into this, because it's stupid. It's what you're falling into the satanic realm. You're walking right into their playbook, which is what they've capped. They've done it your whole life. How about this time say, what doesn't matter how this unfolded, what matters is there is a great awakening that just even exploded to a greater degree from all of this. That's what I think is most important.
Yeah, and so you look at why they did that, or why the Black Hats would have done this event. It was to turn us against each other. So they keep trying to do the race war, keep doing that stuff. It doesn't work. That's a good thing, but this has some effect on people. It has been, there's been some negative stuff that's come out of that. Now, if you look at the the turning against, Democrat against Republican, whatever, that really hasn't worked throughout time either. But that was their intention, to start this war against the conservatives and the leftists. I don't think the leftists are going to continue. I think they're going to become more middle of the road. And being a conservative, I don't really think I'm like a right winger. I think I'm just a middle of the road type person. So these monikers or names or whatever don't really fit. First of all, you are a human being, and you act like a human being. Period. All right. You don't have to talk about God consciousness or Jesus or Buddha, whatever. You're a human being. You treat other people like a human being. Period. Right? You don't go after people because they don't believe like you do and kill them. All right. So that's kind of what is being portrayed here by the White Hats. We're basically breaking down their narrative. Their narrative is just if they're fascist, like we're all fascist. Of course, we know that the ones pointing at us are fascist, but they're saying that these people are the fascist, and so because they're fascist, we can lie to them, we can steal from them, and we can kill them. All right, so that has to stop. We're human beings, first of all, and I think a lot of people that are turning towards, like we talked about, God and Jesus, so forth. That's a very good thing.
Let me throw a curveball at you,
Mm-hmm.
because I see two colliding dynamics right now that are happening. It happened instantly when this event with Charlie happened. They started pointing fingers on who would have done this. And the first thing that came up was Israel and Netanyahu, because Charlie Kirk, who's been pro-Israel, supporting, everything, has now taken a really hard look, as I have in the last year and a half, since we saw this staged invasion set up by Israel, not the good people of Israel, not the people, citizens, but the Khazarian mobsters that run Israel and do damage around the world. All of a sudden, you see people everywhere. The whole world's been afraid to say anything about Israel. I was pro everything Israel my whole political career. I sat in a room with 40 people, and the editor of the Jerusalem Post at one of my clients' homes in L.A. back in, say, 2004. I was the only goy in the entire place. They're all Jewish people, and I raised my hand to ask the question, and it was like it was like a 5-minute dissertation leading to a question, but I knew my history, and they were all looking at me like, I'm like, what don't you Jews understand? You need to razor wire around this entire area and keep these people in, because they're going to keep killing. Blah, blah. And went back to Japanese, back to Japan and the kamikazes, all that same mentality, and they were looking at me like they're all like, oh my God, who is this masked man? Wow, he's amazing, right? I totally believed all that bullshit. I have friends right now, friends of mine that are from Israel. In fact, one of my friends is Imam Special Forces, like kind of like your SEAL Team 6, and active in that operation. But even he said this is bullshit. It was orchestrated from the top, that invasion. So now we have what's going on in Gaza, and the world is now getting to see what Israel has been doing. The Khazarian mobsters, I should say, not Israel as a country, but the Khazarian mobsters who are running this thing. And now you see the world in many places turning against Israel's actions, not the people, not the land, but the mobsters that run it. And now you have a collision of Charlie Kirk and the accusation that Benjamin Netanyahu orchestrated this, because Charlie Kirk for 3 weeks has been speaking out against Israel. And he has a massive voice, massive influence. Were they the ones who were going to take Charlie out before it was intercepted by Looking Glass and the White Hats stage their operation? That's my question. What do you think?
Yeah, I think they were, and I think that's starting to come out as well. Now they've done the Netanyahu's paralleled October 7th with 9/11 quite often. Now we know that there were operatives, Hamas operative, or not Hamas, but uh, Mossad operatives that were in the towers setting up the explosives. That's a known at this point. Not everybody talks about it, but they were dancing. The dancing, Israelis
Mm-hmm.
they were seen doing that, and I guess they were stopped by a sheriff before they were taking their van to like blow up one of the tunnels, and they were stopped out, and then they were put in prison for I think a few weeks, and then they were released. All right, so we know that these Mossad types are part of operations here in the United States. It sounds like there was possible Mossad aircraft that came in. Now, when we say Mossad and we talk about Israelis, the same thing. We're talking about a Khazarian mafia. We're not talking about Jews in general. We're talking about a very corrupt organization that goes all the way back into Ukraine in ancient times, Russian. But
Kazar.
you have talked very well about this, and you've gotten a lot of blowback about speaking that truth. So hats off to you. But these are things that many of us know. We can speak openly about it on this program, but there are some places where if we talk this, then that group will come after us and play it off like we're Jew haters, and that's BS. We're not. We're against the evil side, the people that are trying to do the New World Order type, the deep state, the black hats. They're part of that group. So Netanyahu would not be in office right now if he didn't have this war, this October 7th war. And unfortunately, Charlie Kirk in the beginning stages was very protective of the Israeli cause. And then he started to see over time that, yes, there were some problems there. So I guess he was actually going to talk. He was going to fly over and literally talk one on one with Benjamin Netanyahu, like a week and a half from, probably a week by now, from the day that he was attempted to be assassinated, whatever. So that Mossad, that evil side of that side of the Israeli Khazarian mafia side is being exposed. Now, there's been Q posts that Israel will be safe at last, and I don't know how that's going to work out, but maybe they are. Maybe they continue to do their evil and expose themselves. Uh, Now, another thing they've actually found out is funding. The funding for this was from Democrats. So they're tracing it back to New York. What's the one guy that's running for mayor of New York? Mamdani, and
Memdani.
also Ocasio Cortez. So both of them are part of this one funding group that was. They found that this one shooter, if he was a shooter or if he was hijacked, I think he was hijacked. Uh, he was funded, and there's all these stories are coming out about that now. So there's a lot of things going to be exposed about this. Now, again, like we talked about, you can expose Democrats for being part of this evil, but are we going to wake all the Democrats up? No, no. We'll wake some of them up, and it sounds like some of them are being awakened. But as more and more of this information comes out, this Mossad conspiracy, probably CIA involvement, because I can tell you, having been in the CIA, there are elements within the CIA that are very bad. And many of us would see that, but we had no way of talking about that or exposing that. And one of the reasons why I no longer work for the CIA is because they started to reveal some of this stuff uh, inadvertently on Facebook. And then my whole life changed and crashed. Uh, and then I fortunately was able to, work my way back after, many attempts on my life and so forth. So here we are talking about, this incredible evil. Uh, there's been a lot of people that have exposed this and have died trying. Was Charlie Kirk in the throes of being, killed for on the path of exposing? Yeah, probably. And they hijacked it and stopped it. So yeah, good question. That's my response to that.
Yeah, I think that the truth on that is yet to be seen by any of us. I said I most people are tap dancing or tiptoeing around the Israeli issue, which again I never, man, I was at I think I was a member of TFR for maybe a year or something. You just buy a membership, and I didn't really understand what CFR was. Who would know that? Council on Foreign Relations. We now know, but I'd go to these events and listen to Milton Friedman or Casper Weinberger or heck Netanyahu, who was literally, uh, you know 12 feet from me when he was there speaking, and I was like in awe, this guy. And I forgot the point I was going to make about that, but the whole world's been crafted this
Yeah.
way, and the fact that here we
The
are.
CFR is really part of the deep state.
Of course, they're part of it. I was part of the deep state once, I guess. I joined a membership. They
I,
took my
I mean,
money.
I did. I probably carried out a lot of operations that were, deep state related.
Hmm. We just didn't know. But
Yeah.
again, here we are. We're in that time, and reveals are happening everywhere because some people have the balls to do it. And I think that's the one thing that humanity needs to understand, that Americans need to understand. If you step forward with courage and you're not worried about, oh my God, what if this happens, or what if that happens, or maybe they kill me, and I know this sounds callous, but it just reminds me of Platoon, when Red's begging Sarge, please let me get on the bird out of here. He goes like, I just have a bad feeling about this, Sarge. He goes, everybody's going to die sometime, Red. I thought,
I know, right?
everybody's got to die sometime. And it's kind of like that country song. Everybody wants to go to heaven, but nobody wants to die. Right. And you
Right.
stop and think about that. Like, okay, if you're such a believer and you want to go sit on the right hand of God or meet Christ, why are you, everybody's scared to death? Oh my God, I'm going to die. You've been there. I've been there. It ain't that bad. Honestly, it ain't bad at all. I was pissed that I came back, but, that's what I'm trying to think. That is a protective temporal quantum veil that keeps you safe, is absolute lack of fear of these people,
Yeah.
and what may happen, because that is their ace in the hole. Fear, 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 fear. The greatest weapon to keep us in line is fear. When nobody has any fear, it all crumbles. But and I, of course, our next guest, I certainly want to highlight as being one of those people. I've never spoken to Dr. Kirk Moore. He's here. I like to do it this way because I get to learn and ask um, baseline questions to learn about Dr. Kirk Moore or anybody else, because I found when I talk to people on the phone before a show, everything they tell me that's amazing, that I say, can you repeat everything you just told me on the show? Yep. And they never repeat one word ever, 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 ever. Nobody's ever done it. But you don't understand. I'm like, nope, I'm telling you, I ain't taking the risk, because their brain says, well, he already knows that, so I don't need to repeat that. Right. It's got to be a difficult thing when you're talking to an audience. But so of what it takes to bring this whole thing down, folks, is courage, and damned be the circumstances. And Dr. Kirk Moore, what I've learned about you, you got to have balls as big as church bells to do what you did when they're handing out the kill shot. And you, as a doctor, know that this thing is a bioweapon that kills people. You were injecting people with their vaccine. It was a fake. Yet another staged operation, another one, where all these people think they're getting a vaccine and being safe. You're saving them from actually going, being part of the firewood stacked around the world from this vaccine, and you're giving them saline or something like that. Do I have that right?
Yeah. Hi, Scott. Michael,
How
good
are
to
you,
see
sir?
you. Yeah, I found out pretty quickly that, or I felt pretty quickly that this was just all completely staged, and I mean, it took me. Well, I mean, I didn't do. I was treating people for COVID all through 2020, taking care of them, and I wasn't really going to do much until they mandated it, and then when they started mandating it, making sure that everybody had it, then at that point I said, you know what, I've got to do something. I got to step in here. I got to help out my family. I got to help out my friends. I got to help out my staff. and it just mushroomed from there. It's crazy how busy we got.
So I want to jump backwards for a minute because I want my audience who hasn't seen you to learn about you, and I want to learn too. So, where are you from? What took you into the medical field? What was your medical career like up until this point where you became the great disruptor? And they tried to put you in prison since then, but unsuccessfully.
Well, I live in Utah. I'm 60 years old. I grew up actually in Italy. My dad was a career Air Force test pilot, um, and
Hmm.
and so I had a lot of experience, from the standpoint of military. Um, and then when my dad retired, he got a job working for an aircraft company there, an Italian aircraft company, and we traveled all over the world. And it was an experience that as a kid I hated, but as an adult I grew to really respect what those experiences were, and how much kind of how much of an outlook it gave me. Sorry about that.
No
Um,
problem meeting new people in your life either because you have to do it constantly.
Yeah, so I mean, we met all kinds of people. I spent 3 weeks in Pakistan in 1978. And
Wow.
one night we're having dinner with all the mechanics from my dad's crew that he was there as a demonstrator pilot for the group, and then the next night we're having dinner with the vice president of the country. So
No kidding.
it was
Wow.
just the dichotomy of that, and watching my dad and how he handled all of it, and how we were supposed to be on our best behavior all the time, and don't speak until you're spoken to, and those kinds of things, right?
Uh,
um, but why did I choose medicine? I actually went to I went to college thinking that I was going to go. I went to high school thinking, hey, I want to be I want to be an international attorney like my mom's brother was. And then I got exposed to some medicine at some point. I think my junior or senior year in high school. I got a job working for a plastic surgeon in Jacksonville, Florida, and the rest is history.
hmm.
So I graduated from high school. I went on to college, did 2 years of graduate school in Philly because my grades weren't as good as they should have been in college. So I had some remedial work to do.
Coors
Um,
or Bud Light? What was the reason there?
Actually, I think back then I would think it was the 3.99 12 packs from Tuborg.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
so um,
We get a case of old Milwaukee for like four 99 or something like that.
right. Um, and Anyway, so it's quite an experience. And then I kind of found I just really did well in medical school, graduated top 10% of my class. Have the distinction of being an AOA member, which is the Alpha Omega Alpha Honor Medical Society. So I really
Mm.
did. I turned things around. I'm a smart guy. I can figure stuff out. Um, and I think that that's kind of what got me into this, is that it stunk, and it didn't make any sense to me. The whole COVID thing, the whole every country in the world doing the exact same thing, and then nothing's gonna, you can't treat anybody, and then all of a sudden it's kind of like we're gonna have a vaccine in 9 months that's going to cure the common cold virus, something that's been with us for millennia. All that just didn't sit well for me. But like I said, um, I wasn't. I I've been on the sidelines with vaccines since 1989, just telling people, hey, I don't think it's a good idea. My kids aren't vaccinated.
Wonderful.
I just thought, hey, I'm just going to mind my own business. I'm not going to give vaccines. Anybody who asks me, I'll tell them, not to do it. But then when they started mandating it, and my daughter was going to need it to go to college, and then kids were thinking about, high school kids were thinking about they were going to need it to go back to high school, or you're going to have to wear a mask, and then people, in order to keep their job, people to go see family that were in hospitals, nursing homes. And then, the real stickler to me was, kind of from a medical perspective, was transplant patients. You can't have a kidney transplant, or we're not going to save your life until you get this vaccine.
Yep.
And I couldn't believe that. And so I had to step in, and that's what I did.
And we've seen that. I can't remember who we recently had. That is, it might be a kidney or liver transplant, and he's in a hospital, and they got one, but they're not giving it to him until he takes a kill shot. If he dies, the people in the administration at hospital need to be prosecuted with murder. If I don't know where this guy is today, but I was just thinking of the gravity of the suffering or the lost opportunities. I remember at the time, Penn State, obviously they're I got friends in Utah, and they're big wrestling fans, and Penn State is a perennial powerhouse. I think they've won I don't know, 11 or 12 national championships in 14 years, and here's these guys that are going for their a record fourth national title, like an individual title. Vincenzo, I can't think of his last name, but here he is. They cancel the wrestling, the nationals, right? I mean, to become a 4-time national champ. And I thought about that back then. I'm like, that is the shittiest thing
Right.
that you could be bestowed upon somebody who his whole life since he was a little kid. And there's others too, not just him in that school, but others. Their whole life was built for this moment.
Right.
And because of these criminals, it just goes away. Going back and finishing college, and forcing them to take what we know now is a bioweapon.
Right.
And
Well, it was developed that way. I mean, it was a DoD offensive. It was Operation Warp Speed. It's since when do we do anything that's not military that's called an Operation anything?
and when does the government, Dr. Kirk or Mike, for that matter, in the military, do anything at warp speed? Never,
Right.
right? Never.
Right. Well, I mean, and look, and Donald Trump was so proud of that because he claims that he was able to turn things around and make the government do things, and he has done things. But I'm kind of hoping now that over here over the last couple of weeks that maybe some sanity is coming into into the administration, and people are starting to kind of make some changes, because it's a travesty that we still have these mRNA shots on the market right now.
It is. It is. Mike, the guys in the military you're talking to with this kill shot, are you hearing? I mean, we saw we know what's been happening in the military. The various reports and otherwise are talking about the casualty rate in the military because everybody's forced to take this, other than the ones that said, I'm absolutely not. What are you hearing out there on this thing?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the special forces guys were able to abstain from having to get the vaccination. They gave them the ability to, like, either not take it or get out or whatever, but most of them stayed in, and they were able to push back. I can tell you that every time a vaccination came around, we always signed off like we got it, but we didn't. This one was harder. So the guys that normally would just, like, blow off these vaccines, they really pushed them hard. It was tough. As we've seen, there's been a lot of people that have suffered from it, and there's been complications for a lot of people. A lot of people have had to get out of the service. It just destroyed the service, and it's hard to get people. It was hard to get people to come back in because of that. But now that Trump is back in, the recruitment level is like over the top. Now, I've had the honor and the pleasure of interviewing Dr. Kirk, and I can tell you he's like phenomenal. I'm so glad you have him on the show. Now, Dr. Kirk, I'll give you a little question. Since you talked to uh, your show with Tucker Carlson, have you had any more, success with pushing back on the vaccines and so forth?
Well, I mean, a lot of people have talked to me and asked to be guests on people's shows, but from the standpoint of doing, much more from an administrative perspective, no. I've had some people reach out to me and I've talked to them. I've actually had a couple of conversations with Joe Latipo, and trying to figure out what it is that we can do to make a difference. Teresa Long has reached out to me. Actually, she reached out to me prior to my case being dismissed as well. And Scott, you were talking about, um, data and information. I mean, she was the one that put out all of that DMAT data back in 2022, I think. and then they kind of pulled it all and they reformatted it and came back to say that they just basically increased the risk or increased the numbers from 2015 to 2019 so that it didn't show that or the 2015 to 2020 so that the 2021 and 2022 data didn't show that much of an increase in neurologic problems and heart attacks and strokes and and everything else. Look, Michael, I was the same way when I was in the military. I was a doc, and I never gave any vaccines when I was in clinic.
No
Uh,
kidding.
so
No
it
kidding.
was, I just refused to do it. Flu shots, no. Nobody needs a single shot. It's just it just wasn't part of my narrative.
You
Wow.
know,
Thank
that's yeah. I mean, you're an incredible guy, Doc. To have that foresight and probably have saved a lot of lives right there in one way, shape, or form. Um, I think I had an administrative question to ask you a second ago. I saw a rabbit. So today, right now, are you getting? Let's walk back. Let's walk back to the potential prosecution or the prosecution on this thing. At what point were you? Um, I know, Mike, you guys probably covered this, so bear with me for a second. What point was it that they finally found out you were given saline shots as a head fake to protect people? How'd they find out, and who approached you, and what did that look like when that happened?
Well, I guess after I got indicted in January 23. I had, I don't know, 10 or 11 officers show up. Not guns blazing or anything, but they did show up in force with a search warrant for my phone and my office manager's phone, um, and we found out that we'd been indicted about a week after that, and we had our arraignment on the 26th of January.
How'd they find out about you and what you did? How'd they
Well,
find out?
so when we got our discovery,
Mhm.
it turns out that they found out about a year before that. So in January of 22, there was a lady that came to my clinic and got a vaccine, went back to her job and, said, "Hey, here's my vaccine." And I guess she'd been so adamant that she was never going to get this shot and they might as well fire her, ahead of time, that when she showed up with a vaccine card, they were super skeptical and they called the Utah Health Department and they said, "Hey, I think you guys need to look into this clinic here because I think they're doing something wrong." Well, it turns out that during our trial in July, just a couple of months ago, um, we found out that when they heard, and we got testimony of this, when they heard that there was a potential violation of the way we were giving the shots, they were supposed to do one of two things or both. They were supposed to come out and do a site inspection of our clinic, um, and they were supposed to shut us down. Well, they didn't either. What they did is they contacted the FBI, and the FBI said, "Okay, well, let's put together a task force and let's kind of run this guy through the gamut, and let's make an example out of him to show all the other docs out there that if you decide that you're going to push back against illegal government mandates, this is what's going to happen to you." And that's essentially what they did. And then they put us through 2.5 years of torture.
Jeez.
Our system is not built. Michael, I think you and I talked about this. Our legal system is not built for truth or justice. It's built as a win or lose deal. These prosecutors, they get, notches in their belt. And they get to step up on people when they can have a big win
Mhm.
against somebody, and a win against a doc who is pushing back against vaccine mandates, which are illegal. There's no law that was ever written. The CDC doesn't have a lawful governmental function, which is what they claim that I was violating. And the only laws that were really being violated were our own privacy laws, our own HIPAA medical privacy laws, where you're not allowed to ask and or you don't have to give up your own personal information. So if you think about that, and the grocery store clerk asking you to show your COVID card is actually against the law.
Mhm.
The airline agent behind the counter saying, "Hey, I need you to see your COVID card before I can book your ticket or give you your seat assignment or check your luggage in." That's a violation of federal law. And so for them claiming that, and there were no COVID laws passed, none. No law was ever passed that said, "Hey, you have to get this shot, or you are violating, federal laws." All it was just mandates and edicts and dictates and tyrannical
Tyranny.
measures that were put into place to try to get people to. Um, and I heard you guys talking about her to try to get people to take a shot. It was all based on fear. Okay, that's all it was. It was they were scaring people. They were making, and they scared me initially. First couple of months of 2020, I didn't know what was going on. I'm working, doing my job, but as soon as I shut my office down and had nothing but time to just do my own research and read and study and go back and look at kind of basic microbiology, basic science, and everything else. It took me 24, 48 hours to figure out that this was all nothing but a scam. And then I did everything that I could, and I can continue to do it now, to try to get these mRNA shots off the market, to try to hold people accountable for, the tyranny and the destruction that they've caused to humanity.
Yeah, there's so much BS in all this. I was talking, Dr. Brian Artis was over here the other day. I heard, the thing about artists is he calls out any bullshit on the spot in your face. He doesn't care. I mean, I know he's like called out Peter McCulloch to his face multiple times in airports. Hey, how come, like cut the bullshit kind of approach. And the same with Malone, Robert Malone, the guy who quote unquote invented the mRNA technology. And in a panel, he's like, hey, Dr. Malone, I got a question to ask you. I'm sitting here holding the patent on mRNA, and your name's not even listed on here. How can you possibly be the inventor of the mRNA? Because it says this guy right here and here are the creators of mRNA. I don't get that. Like that's artists.
Yeah,
So
I know
he's
Brian. I've met Brian. I've talked to him a few times. So you're absolutely right. He doesn't pull any punches on any of that stuff.
he uses sarcasm 99% of the time, the most effective way I've ever seen anybody use it. It's his basic personality. But
Yeah.
you don't want to be on the receiving end of him. He always just like, you talk to him about something. It doesn't have to do it to me because I don't bullshit about anything. But he'll be like, wait a second. So you're saying, and then he'll just dismantle you like an
Right.
anatomy class. You happen to be the cadaver, pulling you apart. But
He's a little more vocal. He's a little bit more animated, but you know who else does that is Aaron Siri. Aaron Siri, when he, and especially last week in that hearing with Senator Ron Johnson, kind of did the same thing to that, infectious disease doc from Stanford. He's just kind of like very matter of factly says, "Oh, and you were talking about those 688 cases or studies that you said that you reviewed that are supportive of current vaccine mandates and the current childhood vaccine schedule. Well, here, let me go through those with you." And then he goes, 574 of those cases were this. And the other, out of the remaining 91, 76 were this. And out of those 76, and out of the 24 that are left, only three of them actually had any kind of randomized arm to it. And of those three, and he just kind of like one by one, just kind of knocked them down. And the only thing that Jake Scott, Dr. Jake Scott, and I'll never forget that guy's name. Okay, an embarrassment to the medical profession, an embarrassment to Stanford, could say was, "Well, I get it. There's not, I don't know. He's just kind of stammering, and the only thing he could come up with is, well, I don't know how you could review all 688 of those cases in the last 10 hours. You didn't get them until 2 a.m." and and Aaron Siri goes, "I just have a crack team, and we have a lot of experience with these kind of tactics," or something. It was just like, and he got so much pushback from that he had to shut down his X account for a week. He just started. I think he just re-upped it just now. I wrote an article and it's published in my Substack about him. I sent him an email, and so I just made it an open letter to the public, calling him out on all that stuff.
all right, what's that asshole's name again? Let's see if we can
His
crash
name
that account.
is Dr. Scott Atlas. He's a professor at Stanford. Stanford ought to be embarrassed to have that guy teaching medical students. Okay,
Doctor.
the guy didn't know what mRNA was. He was convinced that it stayed in the arm. He didn't know what VAERS was. Didn't know that you're required to eat.
You're kidding me.
First of all, didn't even know that
We
VAERS.
know what bears is.
I mean, anybody who's involved in this whole thing knows what VAERS is.
Yeah.
And he thought that this is an mRNA. He did not know that that this mRNA is actually modified mRNA. He thought that it went away really quickly. Had no clue about it. And then what was the other thing? He had no idea that the lipid nanoparticle that was there was actually developed to cross the blood-brain barrier. And it was, developed back in the 80s to try to get chemotherapy drugs to the brain and to tissues that are typically, kind of hidden from certain biological membranes. The guy was a total idiot. He made a fool of himself on national TV. He lied to people, outright lied. I mean, it's not even, you can't even call it misinformation, which to me is a misnomer. Misinformation, malinformation, disinformation is just, it's information, period. Okay. And whether you want to believe it or not is up to you. But yeah, the guy lied on national TV and it was a disgrace.
Wow.
So at Stanford, you got a lying scumbag on
So
your
his name,
staff.
yeah, so his name is Dr. Scott Atlas. I sent him a letter and I called him Jake. I said, I don't even think you deserve the name. You don't even deserve the moniker and the title of doctor. So I refuse to use that with you. So his name is Scott Atlas and he has an MD after his name, but he's not worthy of it. And he claimed,
Most of the CIA comes from
that he had
Stanford.
hundreds of people that died, and COVID for him when he was treating people in the hospital was awful. It was awful, was his quote. And I just, it's just kind of like, you're killing people. You are actually killing people. You are not. And if you're a doctor and you're treating somebody and it's the same treatment over and over and over and over again, and you're doing that 5 times, 10 times, 20 times, 50 times, and everybody's dying, don't you think that you ought to maybe change something about what it is that you're doing? I mean, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. So you're sitting here and you're giving people a low dose steroid, you're giving people remdesivir, you're putting them on a ventilator, and 92% of those people are dying, and you're not changing a thing that you're doing. You're a disgrace, man. You don't deserve to be, teaching our Stanford medical students at all.
Unbelievable.
Sorry. That's my most recent soapbox. Apologize.
No, look, I mean,
That's
you just went Patriot Street Fighter. This is awesome. This is what the world needs, man. These scumbags need to be smoked out, drug out into the light. Certainly, you can't try them in in our kangaroo courts. That's why we've been focusing on building tactical civics around the country to bring these county grand juries back, so we the people can start handling our business like the founders had written in the architecture of the Constitution, because they knew this bullshit would happen.
Right.
Tyranny is always going to find its way because the scumbag class on the planet, the criminals, are always going to be drawn to a situation of an uneven playing field where they can manipulate it because they're afraid to compete with we the people. They
Right.
always need an upper hand. So I'm glad you got any more shit you want to rain down on this scumbag? I'm open. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, I could go off on that guy for another half hour. I just think he's a real disgrace to medicine. And for him to have said the things that he did and to whine and complain that he's the victim up there because he had to take care of these hundreds of patients that were dying in front of him, and it was so awful. What about the families and what about the people that died? How awful do you think it was for them? So it's just kind of like, boohoo, dude, go home. And I saw a post. Sorry, yeah, I'll go off one more thing. He's complaining about the fact that he has to keep his 3-year-old in a mask, and he struggles with his 3-year-old having to actually take his mask off to take a nap while he's in preschool. Um, and I'm just sitting here, dude. Making a 3-year-old wear a mask is child abuse. You should be in jail. Again, and he's whining and complaining about it on his X post in 2021, I think. The guy's a disgrace. So
Is it true, Doc, that I learned this early on, that wearing one of these ridiculous masks that do not work, even on the CDC site at that time, they're telling you they don't work for what they're saying they do, and that the immune function of the average person is going to drop 17% in 6 months just because they're breathing their own exhaust.
Well, look, there was a study that was actually done that showed that the masks were culturing out, some of the worst bacteria that's out there, Pseudomonas bacteria, and then people were getting sick from re-inhaling that. I think Del Bigtree did a demonstration on his show where he put um, a CO2 probe inside the mask and watched it go up on his son. I think he used his teenage son as an example. There was an anesthesiologist that on Facebook on YouTube was showing how ineffective a mask was, and he was using a vape, just a plain vape, nothing in it, but just the smoke from the vape machine. And he was putting a mask on, putting a bandana on, putting a one of those N95 masks. I mean, I use this analogy all the time, and it was coming, just coming straight out through the mask. It didn't really matter. But wearing a mask to kind of keep a virus out of you is like putting a chain link fence up around your property to keep mosquitoes out. And that's the analogy that is just so apropos. It's crazy that people think differently. That, you said, yes, the CDC had that. There are no studies that show that masks work. And on top of that, if you actually look at the label on the box, when they started kind of sending all these masks out, the box, the label, what do you call it? The safety label or whatever it is that they put on the box itself says, this mask does not prevent you from transmitting or from getting a viral infection or something to that effect.
Right on the box.
I mean,
That's what's astonishing to me with people. I mean, it is baffling how people just, again, we wonder why we have incidences emerging in the world to try to wake people up.
Right.
Like Mike and I were talking about, the recent one, and just how people will hang on to things that just simply are not true. Just hang on. They won't look at anything critically. It's the most mysterious thing that I've ever seen in my life was when they unleashed that bioweapon and the mask and the kill shot and remdesivir and putting people in a ventilator when they're in the middle of a cytokine storm, all this crazy shit. And I just was like, I can't even believe this. It's like, that's why we kind of really launched this war, was to,
then at the same time they have time. Then at the same time, you have all those nurses and staff and doctors and everybody else. They have time to choreograph all those dances in the hallways,
yeah,
and out on the street and everything else. And they're complaining that they're working so hard, but they have these real elaborate kind of 4-minute long choreographed dances. It's just kind of like, well, how did you guys figure out how to do that if you have people that are dying left and right coming into the hospital? Those hospitals that they established in New York, and the USS Mercy and the USS Comfort or whatever it was that came by. Those places had, I think, one of the hospitals, or one of those Navy hospitals in New York Harbor, saw a total of 3 patients, and not one of them was a COVID patient. The actual, and you had videos of people driving by those hospitals in New York that on the news, on the mainstream media news, were talking about how busy they were and showing these pictures of, kind of people standing in line outside waiting to get in. And yet these other kind of regular, citizen journalists were driving by the hospital taking videos of nothing but an empty maze of lines out front with nobody there, at your kind of peak hours, of the day from like 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. And there's just nobody there, it's just, and everybody was in on it. Everybody. And that's the struggle that I have right now, is that everybody's in on all this, and they've swallowed it hook, line, and sinker. And I want to be on the other end of the fishing pole, kind of just dragging all these people in and whacking them in the ass. But
they need it. Look, that just shows you how deep the dream spell is that people are in, that they're in. They're psychologically, spiritually, emotionally so deep in this dream spell that when you show them these realities, they still don't believe it. And we were told that, look, 15% of the world, when they come to learn everything, still won't believe it.
Right. Well, yeah, I mean, you tell people, you give them all the data and all the science and everything else, and they just turn around and look at you and go, "Oh, I just believe." That's a cult, man. That's an absolute cult. And they claim that we're the cult. They claim that on this end of it, that we're these cultish animals that, just won't listen to quote unquote science. And yet, when you really look at it and you kind of analyze it and break it all down, they're the ones that are the cult. They're the ones that don't believe the information that's coming out. And you know what? The toothpaste is out of the tube now, and it's not going back in. These mRNA shots are coming off the market here. I'm not going to give you a prediction this time, but they'll come off the market. Florida's already said they're not mandated anymore. Louisiana governor and Louisiana Surgeon General kind of said the same thing. So it's, the writing's on the wall. RFK needs to reverse the state of emergency. And as soon as that state of emergency gets reversed, the EUA goes away, and then we can start suing these bastards.
Yeah, there has to be rectification on that alone, because we got information on my father when he was in there. We did an event at Penn State. We got hit. And he was a casualty. The whole two front rows got wiped out, and he ended up having a stroke not shortly thereafter. And then in the hospital, he's making progress from the stroke. We're going to get him into an EE system and going to do what we did for him that they did for John Brody. Fixed neural deficit, 3.5 years into it, wheelchair, could say 2 words at a time. He has a normal life today. And we were planning that out. I had my dad on an iPad telling him, and I know they heard it. My sister walked up on 3 nurses talking about rationalizing, well, he just wants to go home and be with his wife anyways, like rationalizing why they're about to do what they do. And I got from 2 different sources, the doc we pulled off the case. One good one was on, got rid of her. They put this clown on. My sisters are nurses. They when they did speak to him, didn't like him, wouldn't look him in the eye, kept changing from day to day. What his diagnosis or whatever it was. He's going home one day, next day he's going to go to inpatient rehab. Next day I'm flying home to start putting it all in motion. Oh, you better get home. He's terminal. What? How do you mean he's terminal? Well, we found out that he got a parting shot, and that came from 2 intelligence sources. Amount of money, where money was put. Dude was in debt. I'm like, okay, well, now that we have this information, that'll be my last and final battle. It's kind of shit that goes on in these hospitals. You have people that are unscrupulous. They're criminal minded. They're desperate, and they will. It's just like these doctors killing people, hand over fist every day, knowing full well, because the administrators say, if you don't do this, we're taking your job, your money. Okay, right. I will continue killing people.
Right.
There has to be rectification.
Yep. Yeah. No. I mean, look, we take an oath, okay, to not only first do no harm. I'm going to read this to you. Just give me a second here to pull it up, and it's part of this Hippocratic oath, and it's exceedingly powerful. So listen to this. With regard to healing the sick, and this is the quote. With regard to healing the sick, I will devise and order for them the best diet according to my judgment and means, and I will take care that they suffer no hurt or damage. Nor shall any man's entreaty prevail upon me to administer poison to anyone. Neither will I counsel any man to do so. Okay, that is the Hippocratic Oath. Now, I'll tell you right now, when I did what I did, I didn't go back and look at the Hippocratic Oath and study it and kind of like have it out there. I'm still having to read it to quote it to you. But we have this inherent, it's an inherent kind of moral compass, at least it should be, that you are never going to hurt anybody. And you're going to do absolutely everything that you can to not hurt somebody. And if you're in medicine for any other reason, then you should get out, and you don't belong to be in it. I mean, we as I'm a plastic surgeon. What am I doing vaccines, right? I mean, why am I getting myself indicted by the federal government for doing something that's essentially a primary care function? Well, again, I'm doing that because I'm trying to help people. We as plastic surgeons get such a bad name saying that all we're out there do is just to make money, and we take cash and we don't take insurance, and we're just a bunch of money grubbing people. We drive around in nice cars, we have a nice house, and everything else. Look, I'm broke. Okay. I'm bankrupt. I'm done. And I didn't get paid not one of my patients paid me to do anything that I did. I spent close to $1 million in my legal defense. I lost probably $5 million in gross revenue out of my practice because I couldn't concentrate and do what it was that I typically do, in terms of, marketing and advertising, having focus just on taking care of my, of my patients. I'm trying to keep myself out of jail. I'm trying to take care of my family, trying to provide for them. But I'm still not going to kill anybody. Okay. I'm not going to take a paycheck just because somebody tells me that, I have to do this or I get fired. If we have 1 million doctors in this country. If we'd have had 100, if we'd have had, oh gosh darn it, I don't know, 2%, 20,000 of those people, 20,000 doctors would have pushed back and said, no, I'm not doing this. We wouldn't be here right now because the country wouldn't have been able to go forward. And especially if we'd have had, if 50% of those were primary care docs, then we would have gone nowhere. These hospitals would have shut down. They wouldn't have been able to take care of any patients. It would have just been, it would have been over and done with in a matter of weeks. But no, they decided that they were going to take a paycheck, that they were just going to continue to do what it was that they're doing, do what it is that they're told. And then, they're kind of turning around and blaming it on other people. And, got Joseph Mengele on steroids by the name of Anthony Fauci. It, it is telling people what to do, that, hey, I am science, stop pushing back against me. And now we're finding out that he's telling people to delete their emails. He was the one that wrote the article that he had all of those virologists sign, saying that, oh, it's not a natural, it is natural, it's not, coming out of a lab, et cetera, and all that stuff. And yet, if he didn't do anything wrong, why did Biden pardon him? Or why did his auto pen pardon him, I should say? It's Biden didn't know what he was doing. He couldn't even wipe his ass. So I don't know. Sorry, I'm just.
I think I'm pretty sure that's true. Pretty sure that's true because just watching him walk, there was really something messed up there. I think it was exactly that. Nobody ever taught him. Yeah, I got to tell you, just I didn't think of it that way, but yeah, a couple percent of them pushing back on. Look at it. It worked with Southwest Airlines being one of them. Man, I of course I was raining a shitstorm down these airlines, and I was battling them going through airports. Wouldn't wear a mask, and it just, sometimes, a couple occasions, I got the whole way through the airport never putting a mask on for a second. And one was when I come out, Mike, when we all met out there, when Juan had us come out to Vegas, or that February or whenever that was that time. And I'm like that. I was defiant from day one. I'm the only person in Dallas, anywhere in downtown Dallas or any surrounding area, the only human I saw with no mask on. There's no fucking way you're putting a mask on me, no matter what they say. And of course, this one trip out to Vegas, I get the whole way through, never, not even TSA, never put a mask on. And Jason Dean, I was telling him about it. He goes, well, I can tell you why that is. Nobody stopped you. He said, your vibration's so high, they can't even see you. I thought, that's interesting. Maybe it is. Now, of course, I got stopped at TSA many times, and I'd put on my lace panties, see-through Patriot Street Fighter mask. And, you can see me stick my tongue out. You can see right through it. He's sticking his tongue out at us, right? It is ridiculous. But I'd put it up, put it down. And then I just battle people at the airports. But I remember a couple times pilots were coming up to me because they saw me like raining a shitstorm down in Patriot Street Fighter. And they'd come up and fist bump me like that, And I got a lot of that over time. But Louis Benoit is captain at Southwest Airlines. He's out in Arizona. Great guy, very active in Republican politics. Just he looked the part. He was a 16 pilot for his whole career, and then he went to the heavies. But he came up and told me, we talked about it, and that time that Southwest had 600 pilots, they were like, "F you, we're walking off the job. We are not taking a shot." And of course, what happened? The CEO, Scott, whatever his name, like a coward, he buckled and pulled the requirement for the mask mandate, come up with some bullshit. And I'm like, oh, you are so getting the tomahawk tonight on Patriot Street Fighter, you lying son of a bitch. Right. So I just went to work on this guy, call him every name in the book, you effing coward. Well, These people need to go F yourself, and you back down because you prove to be what you are, a lying coward. These people pushed you into a corner and said, go ahead. We're 600 pilots walking off the job, effectively going to ground the whole airline. Like a pussy, he cowered, pulled it, and that's what it takes.
Well, I mean, and if we would have done that, the same thing, I mean, it's just kind of like and those pilots, those 600 pilots now saved not only their lives, but they saved, dozens or hundreds of other pilots' lives by not requiring them to get it
Yeah.
because nobody wanted to get
Mhm.
it. But a lot of these people, look, it's kind of sad that I had to do what I had to do. When in reality, if all of those people had just stood up for themselves, we wouldn't be here either. Because they wanted to shut the world down, or they wanted to shut it down for their own reasons. But if we'd have forced them to shut the whole thing down, we wouldn't be here either. And if those people who were kind of considered the essential workers or essential businesses would have done the exact same thing, none of this would have happened either. I mean, our Revolutionary War happened with 2 to 3% of our population kind of pushing back against against the
Mhm.
government, or against England. I guess it wasn't our government, but that's really all it takes. So you take a couple of percent of people, you take 20, 30,000 people and doctors, a number of nurses, take everybody else, and the whole system just grinds to a halt. And just like you said, you take 600 pilots. I mean, I don't know how many pilots Southwest has, but they certainly have a lot more than 600. Um, and and if the UPS pilots would have done the same, American Airlines, Delta pilots, all of those people would have done the same. Our whole thing would have collapsed. And at that point, then even the Amazons and the WalMarts and the liquor stores and everybody else would have collapsed too, and we would have reversed course in a matter of about 48 hours. So. I mean,
So do you think these criminals are ever going to see justice? I know Trump, just recently said he's calling on pharmaceutical companies to justify the success of COVID drugs. They're like stonewalling him. Do you ever see these people being held accountable?
you know what, Michael? I don't know the answer to that. I'm doubtful because I'm not seeing anybody else being held accountable. Um, the Clintons and the Obamas and the Clappers and the Comeys and the Epsteins and all of these people, nobody is being held accountable for any of that stuff. Um, I, you know, I mean, Trump's a different animal, maybe. It's kind of like you never really know what he's thinking. That's why people are always saying it's fourth degree chess or fifth degree chess or 110th degree chess or whatever it is that they're claiming it is the most recently. But he had Stefan Bancel and Albert Bourla, in the White House a couple of months ago, 3 or 4 months ago, and was like, "Hey, these guys are my best friends," and whatever. And then the tweet, 2 weeks ago, where he's calling them out. And then a few days later, he's got Mark Zuckerberg and Bill Gates in there, sitting in the office, and everybody's like, "What's he doing with that?" And I don't know. Maybe he's doing the same thing with them now that he's gonna, that he's doing to Stefan Bancel and Albert Bourla. Who knows? He has a different way of thinking about things and a different way of kind of doing things. I do think that we're on the precipice of something pretty significant is when it comes to vaccines. And look, 2/3 of women, young mothers and women right now are not going to vaccinate their kids, or at least,
Wow. Really?
yeah,
Where did
63%.
that come from?
It was a survey done a few
Wow.
weeks ago on young mothers or young mothers and women, that are pregnant women, and young mothers were saying that they weren't going to. They were either going to not vaccinate their kids at all, or they weren't going to do it according to the regular schedule. That's 63% of them. So 10 years ago that was 3 to 5%. And
Incredible.
so
Wow.
it's
Wow.
you're seeing a huge swing in the pendulum. Even Peter McCullough wrote a book calling vaccines out. And if you'd have talked to him 3 years ago, he's like, "Yeah, I don't like the mRNA shots, but vaccines, there's nothing wrong with it." Hey, next thing you know, he might be able to kind of actually swing over to the side of the equation where do viruses even exist? We'll see if that happens. So
Mhm.
I don't know. It's hard to predict what Trump's going to do, which is actually really, really kind of it drives people crazy. And I that's one part that I really like about Donald Trump
Yep.
is, you just can't predict him. And that's the way these people. That's the way a leader and a ruler and a general and everybody else should be. You really don't know what it is that he's thinking. Everything is still on the board. He's not going to take anything off the board and say, "Well, I'll never do this." He just kind of all options are open, and that's the way it should be.
I agree.
Yeah. That's what's made it fun with him is that we don't really ever know, but the other side doesn't know. And they're the ones that are,
Right.
buying up all the stock in Tums and Anastas and shit. And people want this thing over with right away. I'm like, I don't want this over with right away. I've been waiting for 30 years for something like this to happen. Now it is. I want these ice holes sweating every night when they go to sleep because they know the Reaper's going to knock on their door. They just don't know when. So these people are having sleepless nights. They're having ulcers, all kinds of great stuff. I'm like, let's play this out for a while. Let them be on the receiving end of what we've been on, not knowing what's coming. Going to lose my job, can't pay my bills. All that stuff. We've been twisting in the wind all of our lives. Now it's time just to enjoy watching these people. I think honestly, we think a lot of these things have been. I've been told by a very close friend of mine who's very close to one of Trump's advisors, and she gives him the lowdown on a number of things. And there's a lot of things going on that the world doesn't even know about, where they're rectifying a lot of these things. People would revolt right now if they knew the depths of it, because you still have this faction. It's still asleep. They haven't woken up to the gravity of things. Obviously, Charlie's situation has woken many people up to how depraved the left is, especially they're laughing about it, celebrating, what happened and all those kind of things. But my belief is that, there's rectificate. Is the rectification ever going to come out into the open where people can see it? I think, when they're prepared to thoroughly understand it, then we'll be shown things that have already happened. They may play it out in real time like it happened yesterday, but at least that's the information we've been getting for a couple of years, and we'll see how it all plays out. But we cannot argue that the world's changing.
Yeah.
If you look at where we are right now today, even the most recent events, and you just kind of backdate this thing, let's say to about 2017, 2016, 2017, even in halfway into Trump's term, again, there's the political battle going on. Trump's taking bold stances, making things happen. But look where we are today. I mean, let's face it. When Biden first came out onto the scene in 2019 as a presidential candidate, I'm like, what? I mean, I've been following this idiot for 3 decades in Congress. He's truly the dumbest person ever to have walked into the U.S. Senate. I didn't know how crooked and criminal he was. I knew he was stupid. Who gets thrown off the Senate Armed Intelligence or the Senate Intelligence Committee as a chairman when your party controls the Senate and all of Congress, yet you are the chairman and you get thrown off by your own party for disclosing, highly classified secrets to the media to be a big shot, probably trying to get laid or something. Scumbag. But he walks out and I'm like, what? I'm like, what the hell is this? And it became very clear to me within 3 days, roughly 3-4 days, 1000%. This is a military operation. Who could get all the media to keep their mouth shut and everybody in Congress who served with him, or at least within arm's length in Congress, not the Senate, for 3 decades? How can these people not come on? Wait a minute, that ain't Joe Biden. Nobody's saying shit. I'm like, there is a true lockdown of the power structure, and these are a bunch of dancing monkeys that are now being told how their day is going to go.
Well,
And obviously,
Donald Trump talked about the deep state. The problem I don't think is that I don't think he even realized it back then. I think he might realize it now, how deep it truly is. It's not,
yeah,
it's just, it goes way down. And, you start looking at the Clappers and the Comeys and the Clintons and everybody else, and then you realize, wow, that's just the surface. We're just scratching the surface here about all this stuff that's happened. Who knows the stuff that just with Charlie Kirk. I think you guys were talking about that when I first logged in. This whole thing, every single attempted assassination that we've had of high profile figures in our country since 1865 have all been lone gunmen. Every single one of them is a lone gunman.
Good
Okay.
point.
And that's just, and we know that JFK was not a lone gunman. That's the only one that we've been able to research. We still don't have the data on MLK or RFK. We and everybody who's quote unquote a lone gunman who is currently alive or was or died in jail or was killed or anything, all of them reneged and rescinded their rescinded on what it was that they confessed to. So they initially confessed and were forced to say, "Oh yeah, I did it," and then all of them since then have said they didn't do it. Sirhan says that he wasn't even involved, and some people will say that he wasn't even in the area of where RFK was when he was shot. Um, and but you go back. I mean, even Abe Lincoln, John Wilkes Booth was, he was shot in a barn 12 days after Abe Lincoln was killed, and we were just told, based upon the investigation, that we know that this guy killed him. Are you kidding me? Really? So you guys chased some guy down. You don't have any evidence. We don't know. You just, and then this most recently, this guy here, Tyler Robinson. I mean, are you kidding me? This kid here, 22 years old, who's, screwing some gay transgender guy, and all of a sudden he's like going to figure out that he's that he's going to kind of change the world, and he's going to go out and put a gun on the roof where he doesn't even know where the tent's going to be. Then he's going to disassemble a gun that you can't disassemble, and he's going to jump down off the roof without the gun, run into the woods, find the gun again, reassemble it, and then drop it with a bunch of words on bullets saying that he did this. I mean, come on. And there's no other video anywhere else on the whole school campus. They only show us one or a couple of still pictures, different guy that they say that they're looking at. I mean, when you look at the pictures of the guy in the black hat and the black shirt that they have, doesn't look anything like this guy Tyler Robinson. And what about all those people that were doing the hand signals behind there? And what about the guy that was pulling the gun? What was this guy doing with the arm underneath, with his hand underneath his, armpit like that, who's supposed to be his security guard? I mean, there's just so many questions. Did they do an autopsy on Charlie Kirk? Where's the bullet? What kind of ammunition actually did kill him? Why did his shirt blow up like this when it's supposedly took a hit here? There's just like, there's, and all of a sudden, Cass up there saying, "Oh, hey, we solved it. It's this guy over here. We found him down there, and his family turned him in because they're going to get $1,100,000 from the FBI, and who's that guy that offered $1 million for the as a reward for so his family turns him in. Bullshit. Okay, I don't believe anything that our government tells us anymore. It's just a bunch of crap." And the problem is they think we're all fucking stupid. They think that the three of us.
I gotta say, Dr. Kirk, they kind of
We
got a
had
point.
over our conversation earlier.
Kind of a point. My most overriding question is why in the recent history are these shooters always, self-proclaimed non-binary trannies on ADHD drugs? Like why is it always these common it's to me it's like watching a cartoon unfold in slow motion, and every punchline. Here we go again. Something to do with trannies and ADHD drugs. Probably got a list of pronouns that you can pick from. It's the craziest shit. Think about 20 years ago, if we would have even had a snapshot into the future of what society is like, they'd be like, that's stupid. But it's here. It's real.
You're nuts. 20 years
it's
ago.
It's a mind fork.
It is. It's a total. I mean, sorry. Hey, Nike, go. Go on. When I raise my voice and I do that, my dogs kind of like look at me and they kind of like, oh, he's all excited. Let's go over and say hi to him. So, but yeah. I mean, I don't understand where we are. It's a real struggle for me. And then you listen to people like Chase Hughes, and who talks about this exactly that it's a mind fork, and and what we're being told and how we're being told. It's kind of like MK Ultra on steroids. And that's true. I mean, we have so many people out there that just have absolutely no clue what this real world that we're seeing is really like. It's really scary.
Well, yeah. Mike, any comments on that?
Yeah, wow. I was like, you should have been on the show earlier with us. Like I said, it's like you're just nailed a lot of stuff that we passed over, but you went deeper with it. So it's good to see somebody else has a working mind. So there's a few of us out there. So we're helping those other people wake up. Even though we're still seeing California pushing masking and getting your vaccines for COVID again. So it's insane. The insanity will continue until we wake them all up, I guess.
Well, yeah, either that or until they're dead, which is, which may be their goal. Um,
Yeah.
so it's
Well, I got to tell you, I'm glad this was my first introduction to you ever here on a show, because I got to see I just love your cut the bullshit attitude. Just cut the bullshit. Cut the effing bullshit. You know, that's what we need. The world. I mean, the world needs it. We're getting there. You know, we got more and more patriots coming to the battlefield with just cut the effing bullshit. Right. Here's what I see. If you guys want to keep swallowing that Kool-Aid, go ahead.
right.
But we're done with that. So it's a great honor, Doctor.
My
You are.
fiance girlfriend has said that I need to start speaking out more and need to start kind of really telling people, how it is. I was self-censoring for so long with the whole COVID thing. I got canceled off of Facebook and canceled off of Twitter at the time and X because, I was putting out actual articles and everything else. I had, my friend group of, I don't know, 400 or 500 people that followed me on Facebook that were talking behind my back going, wow, Kirk's really gone off the deep end. And then obviously when I was doing all the saline shots, I certainly wasn't trying to bring any, any publicity or notoriety or anything towards me because I didn't want anybody looking too closely. That backfired in a sense on me too, but I'm done now. I'm not going to stop speaking out. I'm not going to self-censor. I'm going to tell people exactly how it is. And, if you like it, you like it. If you don't, then just get out of my way.
Love it.
Yeah, TFB applies there. You know what TFB means. You're going to hear it anyways. But again, we're at a critical time. These people that play that game, obviously covertly. But look, I got people that I know. They, even when we were talking about the intelligence op in 2018 Ford, as soon as I walk out of the room, they're making fun of me. They still are, to some degree. But I mean, all the crazy shit I've been saying for 30 years, nobody ever wanted to listen to me. I don't blame them because I probably was a bore. Like I said, I'd go into a bar. If I went into a bar and meet a pretty girl, I'd blow that in the first 5 minutes by bringing up Reagan's name on something. They'd be like, oh, Christ. See ya. I need another drink. Here, you can have yours back. Thanks, though. Because nobody seemed to care. Obviously, when the tide turned, now everybody that I once knew or that I knew that used to didn't want to listen to this bullshit from me, now they call and they want personal dissertations. Sorry, I don't have the time. Or they call and tell me, did you know about? Yeah, I told you that 5 years ago. I get that all the time. It's like,
yeah, I don't get that at all, Scott. I don't get that at all. I have not had one of my colleagues, not one of my friends, not one of the people that I used to talk to, that disagreed with me, 3, 4, 5 years ago with what it was that I was saying or doing. Not one of them has come back and said, hey, Kirk, you're right. I'm sorry. Not one. And that's
well, they won't because they don't have the courage or character.
right.
Either one. No courage, no character. You
Right.
have that, and they can't look you in the eye and basically admit you're the guy with courage and character.
Yeah.
I wasn't. I wish I would have listened. That's what courage and character is. If they come and tell you that, but they can't because they don't have it. Maybe they'll grow it, discover it, and then they'll come inevitably and eventually. They're going to come around because the gravity of the truth is so far beyond what you even shared with them. When they learn that, they will have no choice but to rectify it in their soul to say, oh my God, I can't believe it. And
Well, none
listen,
of us really know the truth right now either. I mean,
no,
I don't think any of us. I mean, we're searching for the truth.
Yeah.
Hopefully,
Yeah,
at some
we're
point
searching.
we'll find it.
Yeah.
But the extent of the deceit and the extent of the evil that we are witnesses to right now is so much worse than what we could even fathom. At least in my opinion.
Really.
Well, Mike would agree. It's the angelic vibration that we were blessed to stand in because we're fighting for humanity to expose all of these killers. I mean, we could all be taken out at any time. I think they're too weak at this point, and there are too many of us. But what other, I don't know of anything. I have nothing worthy in my world in comparison. Like there's nothing in my world is worthy in comparison. It is this one thing: keep hammering away on their bullshit machine and their murder machine in the 21st century killing fields, which are today's hospitals. It's keep hammering away, because eventually it's like, even they say Stalin or whoever said it, you tell the same lie over and over and over, it'll eventually penetrate.
Right.
Well, if you tell the truth in the same way over and over and over and over, it'll penetrate too. And that's what we have to keep doing. So
Right.
you're you're a rare duck, Doc. You are a rare duck. And the fact that you went through all of this on principle and to save humanity, I mean, it doesn't get any braver than that. So I salute you. It's too many doctors out there just did the wrong thing. You did the right thing, paid a hell of a price, but I know life's going to reward you. The quantum field works that way. Quantum physics is the ultimate arbiter of all things. And so that'll come back. Believe me, it'll come back. So we're a little bit over time here, but I appreciate both of you guys, both heroes of mine, both warriors, man. Look, it's a time to be alive. We're here to watch, front row seat to this transition of the human species rising in the angelic form. We have a small part in it. I'm grateful. The audience knows it. They're here for us. Millions and millions of people are following what we do. So we're right. The other side's wrong. And the world gets to see it in real time. That's going to happen. So appreciate both of you.
Thanks.
Well, thanks for having us on, Scott. Appreciate it. Good, Michael. It's good seeing you again.
Yeah, good seeing you, Dr.
Yeah. We'll certainly have you back again, both of you, obviously. And I'll say much love to both you and to the Patriot Street Fighter Nations. Thanks for continuing to support our war effort. You also are warriors too. Hawk always knows when I'm ending a call or a show. I don't know how he does, but he does. He's like, I want my camera time. You got it. Say
Right.
hello. Look over there.
Well, I just
anyways,
had over too. She's lying down on the ground behind me.
With that, ladies and gentlemen, I will say Patriot Street Fighter out.
Okay.